the moonlight, through the ancient fruits, it's the style of life. With every turn, escaping shadows back.
Good evening, treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me, as always, from Washington State, it's Bryn and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Yay, we're all back. Gang's all here. We missed you last week, Cody. The audience missed you last week, so welcome back. We are happy to have you back.
Thank you. I know the standard intro of joining us as always. We might have to drop the as always now.
You got 2 strikes. That's what we determined last week.
You have 3D bronze coming for your spot if you get one more strike.
I'm sorry.
All
It's
dibs.
been a wild 2026 so far. Just a little bit of when it rains it pours action over here. So
Understood.
Yes.
through it now, hopefully.
Yes. Some good weekend news. It's been March Madness, which is also appropriate for the Michael Jordan chapter that we're going to be covering today. Blake, I guess we're all in a bracket or in a pool together. So how's everyone's brackets doing? Anyone busted yet?
I mean, I think probably most people's are busted. If Florida went out this weekend, they were a number 1 seed. And a few upsets, nothing too major. But yeah, I was afraid to look at the bracket at the end of the weekend here. I haven't looked yet to see what my ranking is.
When Cody came home from work, what was it, Thursday, Friday? I don't know. Early on, he was like, "Oh, I'm doing so well. I even predicted this like really awesome upset." And it turned out that I also did the same upset. And I think we both picked it because it was High Point because of the Appalachian footpath box.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row
Yes.
High Point has made it to the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, which is fun because High Point is mentioned in the Appalachian footpath map. Whether or not it's a reference to that school or not is questionable, but it is in North Carolina. It's right there. So I think it is probably likely a reference to High Point.
There's a chance.
Coincidence of the day.
Yeah, so I was going through, I always just do mine like strictly instinct, no going back, click one when I'm picking out my bracket. And a lot of them this year, I was like, oh, is this a place I'm looking at in there's treasure inside? And if so, like if it was Missouri or something, I'd be like, okay, I'll pick that over an opponent. So far so good. It's working out.
You're telling me you don't click on all of the team profiles and count how many players are smiling in their pictures?
That is only my fantasy football technique, which is also, I'm still waiting for my call from ESPN to chat through my strategy. But I think this is going to be a really good episode. Not just because it's the Bryn show this episode, but I'm going to tease, I feel like I have a fun little goodie for clapping feverishly in the Pokemon box. And you guys have both heard this before, and I kind of just like forgot it. This was a while back, and I didn't want to resurface it, and I want to see what the audience thinks. And I also have some goodies or a goodie for past and future box as well. So all sorts of fun things to look forward to in this episode. I do think we should call out that we unfortunately will not be at Seekers Summit this upcoming weekend. We've had a few people reach out asking if we're going to be there, and sadly, we will not. We're not able to make it. And I don't know about you guys, but I already have FOMO. I'm gonna be wishing that we were there to see everyone and hang out.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good time. Everybody enjoy it. And hopefully we hear some interesting reports back of if there's any hot gossip on there's treasure inside or hot clues coming out of there.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably more beyond the map edge heavy. I mean, it's treasure hunting in general, but yeah, I'll be excited to hear the takeaways from the event for sure.
Right. Should we dive into the news since I think we have a chock full episode? Britain, you have the news.
Yeah, so this first one, it's not necessarily TTI related, but I do think it is really interesting. I was telling Cody about it this morning. So this is about Pokemon Go. This article, over the past decade, Pokemon Go players voluntarily submitted photos and short videos of public landmarks, street corners, storefronts, and urban intersections, all coming together to create a data set that now stands at 30 billion images captured at ground level across nearly every major city on the planet. What's the company? Niantic? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
The Enterprise AI and Mapping Division, spun from Niantic Inc., has spent years converting that trove into something the robotics industry has never seen before. Photorealistic, street-level, continuously updated model of the physical world built specifically for robots. So all of us playing Pokemon Go have all been creating nice little maps for all the robots to take over the world. I thought that was fascinating.
That's a good connection to Pokemon Go and the Pokemon box, I suppose. It's interesting. Yeah, I've heard a lot of I don't know. Your reading of that article sounded more neutral than the headlines I was reading about that. I didn't read any details into this article, but I saw some headlines that your Pokemon Go is feeding the AI takeover, blah, blah, blah. But
yeah,
whatever. People had fun doing it.
I'd be interested to know if that was their intent as like they were creating Pokemon Go, or if it was like a halfway through, a couple years in, and they're like, man, we sure are getting a lot of pictures of everything in the world. We should like map these.
Yeah, and I should mention there was a game before Pokemon Go that was run by this company, Niantic. That was very similar to Pokemon Go. So they had this technology prior to Pokemon Go. I don't know how Pokemon Go evolved, pun intended, into what it is today. If Niantic suggested to the Pokemon company, this is what we should do, or if it was the other way around, or how it all came about. But yeah, they had a game before Pokemon Go that was doing something very similarly.
All right, my other news. This was sent in by a listener, Genetic Blend, and this is regarding some puzzling opportunities, global puzzling opportunities. So since we now do have a global audience, I would like to share. So it's called Puzzled Pint. And Genetic Blend said, I thought I would write a short email to let you know about a nationwide, this is actually going to be global puzzle event that takes place once a month in selected cities. It's called Puzzled Pint. A bunch of smart people meet in a bar to solve puzzles that were designed by one of their equally smart members. So I looked up the website. It's puzzledpint.org, and it's quite the extensive city network. Check it out if you're interested in getting a few more puzzling opportunities at a city near you. They are definitely like major metropolitan areas. So if you're in a big city and that sounds fun, check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we'd be remiss to not mention that 3D Bronze has a puzzle hunt coming out soon called Agents versus Aliens. Just I have a beautiful 3D Bronze Lion's Share box, so be sure to check out 3D Bronze. I don't know the exact timing when that hunt's coming out, but he is very involved in the community, and we should support this new puzzle coming out.
Amazing.
Great. I think you have a What's More Likely, Bryn?
What's more likely? This is another user submitted What's More Likely, and I like it because it is very timely with the chapter that we're going to be covering today. So this is from Andrew. He said, in regards to the hunt, I can't get past the placement of this Michael Jordan chapter. Wouldn't any fan of MJ that wanted to highlight him in the book With the prerequisite number of chapters, make this chapter 23 instead of 13. What's more likely? JCB simply didn't think to coalesce Jordan's iconic 23 with the like numbered chapter in the book, or he placed it exactly where he intended for a reason.
I was actually had the same thought process while I was reading through the chapter this week. Why it wasn't chapter 23. I think that the way that JCB has written this book, chapters actually do align pretty well. And I think it was more important that he had the themes and the subheadings of the chapter in the particular order more than necessarily aligning a Michael Jordan chapter to chapter 23. I actually felt that I was actually questioning more why he didn't make this chapter 1, actually, because I feel like this is a subject matter that he is most comfortable with out of anything in the entire book, because he was a Michael Jordan fan early on, since was a young child all the way up through his college years. And so he has kind of intimate knowledge about basketball. We've seen through some of the articles that was it Patch that sent those along, I believe. I'll double check that, but I think Patch sent those newspaper articles that had some of John Comer's stats in them, and he seemed to be actually a very good basketball player post middle school, which is the chapter that we're covering today. So if he would have wanted to start, if JCB would have wanted to start the book with something he's very comfortable about, I feel like he would have put Michael Jordan card in there first. But that just tells me that there's importance to the order of the chapters. And I've really gone off on a tangent here. Can you remind me what the what's more likely question is?
If he just simply did not think to make it chapter 23, or if he placed it exactly where he did for a specific reason.
I think he put it, I think neither. I think he put it in where it needed to go, but has nothing, the order doesn't have anything to do with Michael Jordan necessarily, more with the subtext message that he's trying to get across in the book. So where it needs to be is more likely.
What do you think, Cody? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of funny that Blake was so fixated on the front of the book and thinking that it could have been like a good chapter 1, because I was actually really focused. When I heard the question, my gut went straight to the back of the book. I think I'd be like much more questioning why it's not chapter 23 if there was like 30 chapters in part 1, and it could still be kind of like a middle of the book chapter without being like the final chapter. But asking why it's not chapter 23 in a book that's 23 chapters, I mean, I think to me the obvious answer would be that he had some specific things that he wanted to say to close out the book that would have been tied to chapter 23, and that just like didn't mix well with the Michael Jordan chapter. So yeah, I guess I don't know which of the what's more likely options that would fall into. I think it's also kind of a neither. That one other thing I do want to say though is I'm kind of going back and forth on whether each of the 23 chapters has to be in the exact specific spot, or if it's more of like these kind of chapters have to be in the beginning, these chapters have to be in the middle, these chapters have to be in the end. I've kind of been thinking about that as I'm talking right now, because when you first read the question and that kind of sub question came into my mind, I was thinking that my gut beliefs would have been that it's kind of, here's some beginning chapters I have, here's middle chapters I have, here's ending chapters I have, to kind of like ramp up and then talk about general stuff and then kind of end with the big crescendo at the end. I guess it kind of depends on what your solves are, because I'm sure there would be some solves where the chapters have to be in an exact specific order, and then some solves where they don't. I guess that's just kind of a whole nother question, though. So I'm opening up a whole can of worms.
Well, I'm definitely in agreement with you guys that I feel like it would not have been necessarily like an appropriate dramatic final chapter of the book, so it makes sense to not end with that one. However, I do differ in opinion that I think he knew very well what he was doing making it chapter 13 versus 12 or 15, because he absolutely knows the significance of 23. And so I think by making it 13 instead of 23, he is either just like doing that as kind of like a half nod to the 23 in a way, or I think he's maybe trying to draw attention to the chapter numbers themselves in an intentional way, that were intended to be questioning, well, this is 13 for a reason and not 23. So I do think he specifically made it 13 for a reason. Do I think the other chapters have to be tied to a number? Probably not. But I do think it is there to help us bring the connection between the chapter numbers into question in some way to either the structure of the book or the contents of their respective chapters.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting take. I don't know if I agree with it. I don't know if I have an idea of why 13 would be a significant number.
So I will say kind of something along those same lines is a chapter coming up, I want to say 19, with the cherry tree image in that notebook. I believe, and I'm not prepared to be speaking to this, but I believe someone said that there was 19 cherries on that tree.
Interesting.
So like, I think if that is the case, I have not confirmed, or if that it was even chapter 19, but I think those cherries were supposed to correspond to the chapter number. So I do think
chapter 17.
17, thank you. I think like that is probably part of my driving inspiration for maybe why I think there could be something that we're needing to be considering with the chapter numbers themselves.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind for sure as we continue to dissect the book. Cool. Great question. Great question. I don't think we have any horseshoes and hand grenades, but we'll be talking details of chapter 14, and we have a lot of mailbags and a lot of Discord detectives. So let's get into mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
Bryn, you have mailbag.
Have the mailbag. This first one is long, but I do think it's very interesting. And it's about the Pokemon box, and it's through a lens that I just have not considered at all before, and I think it is worth considering. So bear with me while I read through this. I think it's wonderful. This is from Stacy. So some discussion of Pokemon bits and bytes, if you will. This is not my area of expertise. I believe he called it geek speak, so he wrote it in a way that is easy to comprehend. He said, as the book tells us, there are at least 2 physical Bitcoins in the treasure. I say at least, as Jon does the same in the past and future chapter when talking about the Bitcoins in that box, which makes me wonder if there are more than 2 or even 1 or more digital Bitcoins in the boxes documented on a certificate with a scannable code or plastic credit card type tangible form. Placing a Bitcoin in the past and future box makes sense as it ties to the future of currency, right? With that said, here's my theory that the other physical Bitcoin is possibly in the Pokemon box and why it ties nicely to it as well. So we start out with a quick lesson on binary, bits, bytes, and Game Boy. Strap in. Let me give a short explanation of bits and bytes and why you hear references to 8-bit, 16, 32, 64, 128, etc. when looking at PC and other related device specs. As we all know, computers use ones and zeros in a binary system to process information. A bit can either be a 1 or a 0. So the more you have, the higher the processor can compute. Since adding bits doubles the number of values possible, one bit has two values, 0 to 1, but two bits combined to make a value can represent 4, 0 to 3. 3 makes 16 values, 4 makes 128, and it goes until you've doubled the values to 256 using 8 bits. Back in the day, the Game Boy used an 8-bit processor for the Pokemon first 2 generations of games. So in binary, that allowed it to work up to 256 different values, or in this case, Pokemon. Luckily, at the time, it only needed to work with 151, ranging from 1 Bulbasaur to 151 Mew. In the second generation, it increased the number of Pokemon by 100 to 251 total. My guess is that the increase from 151 to 251 instead of, say, another 151 was dictated by the 8-bit limitation of 256 values. The last thing before moving on from geek speak is that the use of 8 bits is called a byte, where only 4 would have been called a nibble. I wanted to go into that amount of detail on this as I think it could be useful for other clue solves. He says at least one that I know of in part 1 within the book as well. So hopefully the non-techie hunters won't tune out all of that too quickly. Okay, we're close here. So this is where he's applying it to the Pokemon box specifically. He says hidden references in the text. These are quotes in the chapter that refer to the words bit, byte, nibble, and related numbers as explained above. He says the adults ate slowly. So 8, like ATE, and also the number 8. And then he says slowly would be like nibbled. When my mother at last finished her final bite, so BITE or BYTE of sausage and toast, my father announced it was time to go for a walk. This box has over 250,000 individual chisel cuts, and he said this is like 251 or 256 maybe. Since it had been such a long time ago, I figured it might be a fair bit of work. And I waited a bit to see if he'd return, but there was a lot to explore. All right, so that's the end of Stacey's section. And I think I particularly like this because in the back of my mind, I've always wondered how much emphasis I should be putting on the Game Boy aspect of it in general. And I've been hesitant because of the past and future box. But I just want to know what you guys think, because this sounds like much more your world. Do you think this is applicable to Pokemon box? Or does this feel more past and future? And we do know Stacey saying he feels like there's some applicable elements to Lion Share as well.
Yeah, my gut reaction is that that would be more past and future related because the Bitcoin explanation is in that chapter. But have that blended across both the Pokemon box and the past and future probably doesn't seem appropriate to me if we think about how John stated the 4 puzzles in the smaller boxes are all different styles of puzzles. So I don't think there would necessarily be bleed over between the part 2 boxes. That being said, he has presented some interesting evidence about the bits and bytes. 250,000 chisel cuts. I like that as a stat. That it would, that what he's saying is more applicable to the Pokemon box. So it could be. I'm just not buying into that too much. I could see there
that
being
is a good point.
Something special in the line as a Lion Share clue elsewhere in the book that I'd be fine with. But intertwining those two, that idea across 2 chapters seems a bit much to me.
It is a good point that each part 2 box is supposed to be intended to like kind of meet a different audience. So I think that's a really good call. Any thoughts, Cody?
I think you're muted.
I think muted.
Sorry, am I back?
You're
yes.
back.
Excellent. I was saying I mostly agree with Blake. I think the only way I could see like heavy computing references being used in the Pokemon box was if JCB was doing something kind of coy and was like kind of subverting your expectations on which box contain which type of puzzles, which he could be, but I don't know. I feel like he's very aware of like doing his best to not upset people, knowing that that's not possible, but like trying not to be overly coy about things. So I'd be pretty surprised if you went that route. Um, I like the call out for a nibble. I'd never heard that before. I know a lot of random computing terms. I had not heard of the nibble. So that's an interesting fun fact there. Um, Other than that, I mean, I think that most of those things that were mentioned there could definitely be used in a puzzle. I don't feel like it's too deep of a cut. I think those are pretty like 101 type terms. So I think they definitely could be in play. But yeah, I think that I'd agree that you're more likely to be using those in a past or future setting, or maybe a lion's share setting.
So I wanted to use this as an opportunity because of 8-bit in general. It just reminded me of the connections that I had made to 8 early on when I was researching Pokemon Box. And this is honestly probably my favorite interpretation that I found of clapping feverishly at this point. So with the significance of number 8, just to start, let's see here. 8 is a lucky number in Japan, which I think could fit in with the idea of the ladybug also being a symbol of luck. And we also have the line about a stroke of luck. So there's some like potentially element of luck. So maybe 8 would tie in with that. But my favorite is that I found that in Japanese texting culture, if you were to text someone the number 8 a bunch of times, like 8888888, it represents clapping. So that makes me think clap feverishly, because so the reason why they do this is because the number 8 is pronounced hachi, and the onomatopoeia for clapping is pachi pachi. So since they sound similar, 8s would represent the pachi pachi clapping. And what's interesting is pachi pachi is also the Japanese onomatopoeia for fire, like the cracking or snapping sound of fire, which kind of fits with the stick snapping, but is also perfectly intertwined with then clapping feverishly. And I do think with the aspect of wordplay and the idea of these things in the chapter that we're supposed to be hearing, I totally think there could be an element of Japanese onomatopoeia wordplay. It feels like a stretch, but I still feel like this is my favorite interpretation that I've found of clapping feverishly so far. So I wanted to throw that out there to the audience, and maybe someone can do something with it.
Well, and JCB mentioned multiple times his trips to Japan and how influenced he was by the culture there. So it seems like it would be very on the nose in that sense as well, to include that as part of the solve.
Yeah, I mean, wordplay in Japan is huge. So like for this to be, in my opinion, a wordplay chapter, I definitely could see where there might be aspects of Japanese wordplay as well.
Yeah, I've always liked the concept of emojis in the Pokemon box also. That would be kind of a close proximity to what you're saying in terms of putting 8s in a text to indicate clapping. I think there's some keywords when the bartender laughed out loud, right? LOL.
Yeah.
Like the shaking of hands and the bowing. Certainly there's a shaking hands emoji. I haven't thought about this in a while, so I don't have a bunch off the top of my head, but I feel like if you look at the Pokemon chapter through the lens of emojis, there's potentially something there too. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch. I like yours a bit more as the 8s representing clapping and the connection to fire. I mean, seems pretty strong to me. Good reminder on that.
To weigh in
there was
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, to weigh in and bolster your side theory there, Blake, we'd kind of been working under the assumption that JCB was trying to appeal to different audiences by having the 5 different boxes kind of in 5 different ways, and we had identified the Pokemon boxes being likely one that's kind of more geared towards the younger generation. So I feel like the use of emojis would be the kind of thing that would be very like, hey, here's something the younger generation will pick up on specifically as they read through it, that maybe other generations wouldn't. So a little more bolstering of that theory.
Yeah. I was just going to say, early on, I have gone on quite the side quest maybe, of Japanese onomatopoeias, Japanese specific wordplay, and very interesting, almost like too much good stuff, I would say, but not any way of like me being able to figure out how does this ever translate to a map. So if anybody else has been looking into that, let me know. There's a lot to unpack there.
Respond to the Pokemon Minute or send a mailbag.
Yes. Okay, I have. Maybe I'll just do two more quick mailbags, and I'll save another one for later. Okay, this is from Chester. This is regarding last episode. We talked about that the shipwreck narrative was potentially pulled from a video on YouTube that has since been removed. And so Blake had made the great call of like, well, do we know if these videos were made before or after the publication of the book? Because it could also just be pulling the narrative from the book then into a video and not vice versa. So Chester said, as mentioned on your show, to the effect that someone found an AI video of the dialogue in the shipwreck chapter, the attached video was posted 5 months ago, and it is verbatim dialogue from the book, inclusive of the video saying that the La Luz take off the coast of Montevideo, Brazil, which was a book error that was been corrected. So this is an example of at least one of, I mean, this doesn't necessarily prove the other ones, but this is an example of like a YouTube video that pulled from TTI to create a video versus vice versa, which feels more likely.
Perfect. That's a great follow-up.
And the last one I'll do here, Kpro left us a comment in the last video. I had done a X analysis of the X's that I found in the chapters throughout the lion's share, and she mentioned there is also one X in the word search. Maybe it can be included in your analysis. Interesting stuff. So I think that was a really great point that I really didn't consider the part 2 chapters at all when doing my X analysis, and that was totally a mistake because we know the whole book is part of the lion's share solve. So I should have gone through part 2. I should have continued to go through the extra items in our treasure, the whole thing. So I think there is some more work to be done with a potential X analysis follow-up.
Do you think you're going to add the X that's on the Pokemon card on the Shining Charizard?
I can't remember. Did we decide that I feel like we figured out that was like just part of the card itself, the case.
I think it is. I don't think it's been intentionally added. That's my theory. That's what's more likely. That it's just a flaw on the case, that it wasn't added, but I don't think that's ever been 100% resolved.
I also think there's a lot of ways of interpreting the Appalachian Trail map that include different X's.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point too.
Almost too many possible X's in the Appalachian Trail map.
Yeah. This could quickly balloon out of control, so we'll just have to do our best guesses and have a few different versions of this map. And then you're going to use the X for the pickaxe and shovel.
Oof. See, this is where it starts snowballing.
The X on the cover of the book. Does that count?
Too much.
Cool. That's a great point by Kpro. Thanks, Kpro, from Calazar's YouTube. All right. Should we dive into Discord detectives? All right. I have. I'll start with Discord detectives today, and then Bryn, you have a few more. It's great. Mine's like more like social media detectives, I guess, but we've been getting a bit of chatter about the magnifying glass, which I love because I'm looking for ideas on that, as everybody knows. So let me just pull up a couple of slides to highlight here. We had a new video from Dr. C. You guys know who Dr. C is, right?
Dr. Krypton?
It is Dr. Krypton. He's rebranded to be Dr. C. I'll put this over here, just on the side. He actually shouted us out. He watched our last episode on the magnifying glass. Cody, it was the one you missed. When we did Puzzle Corner, we actually talked about this moon script, or this moon font that is alternative to Braille. And I highly recommend you check out Dr. C's YouTube video. I'll obviously have a link in the show notes here that you can click on to check that out. He goes into a little bit more detail about the background of this moon script language. And I thought he did some interesting analysis, as usual, for Dr. C. This one I endorse a little bit more compared to some of his other past and future box stuff. But he thought that taking the moon script and taking the symbols that are on the magnifying glass was interesting. And he agreed with us that this W, or this upside down U, the cup, doesn't quite match. So he had the idea of actually taking the letters and pulling them apart into valid moon script letters, and then getting the letters out of that. So basically he's taken the 5 quote unquote symbols, quote unquote runes, whatever you want to call them, on the magnifying glass, but instead of using them as the whole, if they didn't quite fit, he took them apart to get the letters MIRERYTS out of this. The other part of this that I really liked was he kind of had your idea, Bryn, and maybe Cody, where he wanted to move the orientation of the magnifying glass because it seems like where those symbols matter. So he turned them all so they are all facing the same direction based on where they were on the radius. So that's where he's getting his interpretation of like the little lightning bolt symbol and the line here, by taking that approach that the orientation matters. So I'm not going to spoil his whole video. He has some Batman connections in here, which I like, which are interesting.
Nice.
Related to some quotes from Batman where it's like Mr. Enigma, Mr. E, Mystery. So it's a Mystery R or Mr. E. Anyway, he's trying to make some connections to this anagram that got spelled out from the way he interpreted the runes. So, I don't know if this is correct. I am all ears on any theories on this, though. So appreciate anybody putting ideas out there on what to do with these magnifying glass runes. Any thoughts on this?
I quite like that. Was the moon alphabet, was that included in the Puzzlecraft book? It
was.
Oh, really?
Puzzle Corner, yes.
I find that quite interesting.
Exactly.
And then I was going to say the Batman connections. It's not the first time I've heard of Batman connections. I feel like that's like, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's like a popular opinion, but it's something I've heard multiple times over many months. And it just feels so strange and unexpected to me. If that were the case, it doesn't seem to line up with the rest of the book to then just like have all these Batman references. But I guess there's all those other superhero connections that you had found, right, Blake?
Yeah, in the George Washington chapter. And then there's one direct Batman reference, right? It's when he's talking about when JCB is talking about the butler, Alfred Pennyworth, when talking about the gem dealer, I believe. And then
Yeah, that's true.
in the past and future box, in the last couple of paragraphs, it's about this Riddler and this Puzzler when he's talking about the cryptogram.
Yeah.
Riddler and Puzzler are both Batman villains, but
How funny would it be if the solve is finally revealed? It's just all Batman. All 5 boxes are all Batman. Oh yeah, I don't know. It's a hard pill for me to swallow, but I think you gotta start taking it, maybe the Batman stuff, more seriously. Huh.
I like that he's kind of pushing on the moon alphabet. Like it just feels so coincidental that I'm glad it's being looked into extensively. I still think I talked about this last week, Cody, but I think for me, I'm pretty well in the camp at this point that I think because these symbols are positioned where they are on a circle, they're going to have something to do with some sort of navigation, maybe something applicable to the Hopi calendar and how we're supposed to be using the Hopi calendar and where these are positioned in relation to that, or like maybe even something to do with the coins. I don't know, but I just think the fact that they are positioned in the way that they are, of course, this could have just been to hide them in this discrete way, but the fact that this is a circle, we have the Hopi calendar, that's a circle. Man, I just think there's got to be something with that too.
I'll also mention real quick the fact that it's called the Moon alphabet, and you guys probably talked about this last week, but that feels very on brand with a lot of the other, moon references that we found in the book. So maybe some of those moon references are pointing you towards that moon alphabet.
It could be.
And then they also wanted
just to harp on that a little bit. I don't remember any moon references in that chapter though, like chapter 3. And I feel like if it were supposed to be a moon reference, he might have thrown one there. I have not gone back to check my notes, so let's double check that. But that was just one thought I had because I was thinking the same thing, Cody.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, and then I was just going to say I want to give Dr. C some kudos for thinking of breaking out those symbols into separate letters. I don't know if I would have thought to have done that. And from what I'm seeing on this slide, it looks pretty clean.
Yeah.
Like it breaks into really clean and believable letters and not like, strange interpretations of this kind of looks like this letter kind of thing. So that was a good thought.
Yes, very much so. I enjoyed the video a lot. And like I said, any thoughts about how to creatively use these symbols? Because I haven't seen a drop dead answer that's like, yes, this matches this particular rune alphabet that was used in Anvari's ring, like, or the Elvish alphabet that I talked about last time too. Like, seems like these are clear enough symbols that it should just match something 1-to-1, and I feel like it should have been found. So any ideas how to creatively break these up? I like this approach as well. All right, we also have a Matthew Hobbies video that's out in the last week and a half about he did a special on a few different images in the book, one of them being the magnifying glass. So he has some other ideas how to use these, like you break the angles up and then put them on a protractor, and then you evenly distribute 26 letters of the alphabet around it, as an idea where every 5 degrees is a new letter. I don't think he got anything too useful out of this other than a kind of a brainstorm of another way to do this. I think, Bryn, you had mentioned maybe using the coins with the magnifying glass as an idea as well. We haven't followed up on that yet, right?
No.
And then, what do we do with this cup symbol, the all elusive cup symbol? And then something else Matthew Hobbies had in his video is some people have said if you squint at them, maybe it says joy is if you put some of those symbols together, or if you use kind of the shadow that's on the far left side of the magnifying glass as a J-O-Y, but he's definitely adding in missing components of those letters.
Yeah.
Because joy is in the details.
Yeah, and then like what benefit do we have from that, right? Like
Right. Right.
Exactly. I've seen a handful of ideas or theories like that are almost like circular, not circular reasoning, but kind of just like lead you into a circle where it's like, oh, I found this hidden anagram that spells clue. It's like, okay, well, so now you know it's a clue, but it's just a clue that says clue. Or joy is in the details. And in this detail, I found joy is. So now it's just kind of goes in a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for those symbols, I mean, I feel like how well they're emphasized in the chapter, like, I think they have to be something, and for them to then kind of just be like a little, oh, you found it, that's nice, would definitely feel underwhelming to me. And hopefully that's not the case after how much time we're putting into the symbols of the magnifying glass. That would be upsetting.
Can you pull that slide back up again, Blake?
Oh, sure.
That chart on the left-hand side, that feels like huge to me. Back one.
Oh. This one here.
Yeah. So those are, it looks like he's doing letters A through Z on the left-hand column, and then the triangular numbers on the right-hand column. And the fact that there are exactly 26 triangular numbers under 360 degrees, that feels like a heck of a coincidence.
I don't see where he says triangular numbers anywhere. Sorry.
Aren't those the 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28, 36? Those are triangular numbers on that, what would be column B.
Okay. Oh, in the far left. I totally missed that.
Yeah. So he's showing that there's obviously 26 letters in the alphabet, A through Z. And there's 26 triangular numbers that would be less than 360 degrees. That feels like quite a coincidence. And like totally ties in a lot of the circular things we've been doing and angles and degrees and the letter things.
Yes.
That seems super notable to me.
Okay. I don't remember
that's exciting.
What he said about that. And yeah, I'm obviously doing a huge disservice, and I want you to watch all of Matthew Hobby's video on this. But yeah, I totally skipped over that. Thank you for pointing that out. Right.
Yeah,
Let's run with that. Let's run with that.
Doesn't that feel huge? It feels huge to me.
Super valid. Yes, it does. Short answer.
That feels like the next step in this identifying the triangular numbers and then what to do with it. I'm excited about that.
All right. We'll have to chat with Matthew about that. Awesome. Good catch, Cody. You have good eyes. Wow.
Like blue laser beams.
Like peeping through ruby red eyes. All right.
Thank you.
Bryn, do you have other Discord detectives?
I do. So the first one is from the Original Branch Substack. So subscribe to that if you are not. It is a free one at the moment, so I recommend. This is part of a whole greater post, but I do want to just kind of take this picture because it is a picture that we have discussed in quite a bit of depth at this point, and would love to just have everybody get their eyes on it because I think it is a good change in perspective to see it from a different way. So if you could pull it up, Blake. This is the ring that we had quite the discussion about if the bottom was like photoshopped out to make it intentionally not a complete ring. So in this instance, it has been flipped upside down and it sure looks like some horns. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, we had a little discussion about horn connections with the antler and the goat discussion last week, Cody, I think while you were gone. So this is just another way to interpret this particular ring as being a set of horns. Yeah, Original Branch, which, yeah, he has some good ideas.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to check out the whole do you call them articles?
Posts.
The whole post itself. It was April in the Taurus Bull is the post. Sorry, Cody, I cut you off.
You cut me off?
I thought so. It looked like you're about to talk.
I think I yawned.
Oh, okay. Well, excuse me.
Sorry. Not because of the content, just because it was very late here. I've had a busy week. The horns in general, I have mixed feeling on the rings thing because of, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit.
Yes.
So I have mixed feelings on that, but the horns theory in general is quickly climbing up my like hierarchy of leading theories. I'm putting a lot of stock in the horns.
You know, it's kind of interesting too that we have those letters in the Hopi calendar underlined, overlined, and then we have the weird lines in the magnifying glass. You know, not that they have to be related anyway. I don't know how you'd be able to make the connection, but it's just kind of interesting.
Does JCB mention Chicago Bulls?
I was going to bring that up.
I'm going to bring that up.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to go first.
Let's talk about
going
it then.
first.
All right. It's just a thought that came to mind. You should also watch, I know you haven't watched Matthew Hobby's video about this image either, which I think is part of the same video that talks about the magnifying glass, but he actually agrees with you, Bryn, that he thinks that there's something on the edge of the ring belt interface that looks like maybe letters to him.
Oh.
So anyway, you need to watch Matthew Hobby's video, most recent video.
Okay. I am sold, solved, all of the above. Love it. Okay, this is what I'm most excited for in this episode. And it kind of stems off of this message on Discord that I happened to find. So this was in the Kalazar's Past and Future channel from a user, Donna Snowbody. So she said, there's a well-known legal case that folks study in law school, which went to the Supreme Court about the Lemon estate divide. It had to do with the deceased past, specifically excluding her adopted son and heir future from inheriting her estate. So I just think this prompted some new thoughts for me, because I know all along I've been saying, like, I feel like there has to be something to do with estate planning and wills in this chapter because of the line "buy by will and testament" in the past and future box. So because we had that and we had estate, I was like, okay, well, it's got to be something. But then I never really thought about that in the sense of a state divide. So I am like out. I do not think it is state divide. I am very much in the camp of a state divide within the context of by my will and testament. And I also think because in Ready Player One, the whole concept of Ready Player One, right, is Halliday leaving his estate to someone to inherit. And I really love what this post was saying about that being an aspect of past and future. Like, who is the previous owner of this estate? Who is going to be a future inheritant of this estate? And so I just think I haven't had time to really give it a lot of thought, but I'm all in on estate versus state, and that making sense with estate divide. I could be a very far out minority here, but that is what I really like right now. And
if it
Lemon,
were,
I mean,
if it were a state divide, wouldn't JCB have to consider that putting those state abbreviations? Then that would have to be a red herring, in my opinion. It's not. No, you don't. I don't think so.
I think you could have both.
Even though
there's also two estates, right? So one could be state and one could be estate.
Yeah.
I think they could coexist.
A dual meaning, not necessarily. Those states would still have meaning, even though state goes right through between Tennessee and North Carolina with that diagonal line.
Stop bringing me down.
No, I'm not bringing you down. I think we're just talking through ideas.
No, it's good.
Can
It's
you
good.
can you recap what the lemon case is again? Sorry.
So she said, and I have not had the chance to go back and like read up on it, but she said it's a well-known legal case that folks study in law school. And I did get a chance, I confirmed that this is like a famous studied case that went to the Supreme Court about the Lemon estate divide. It had to do with the will of the deceased, specifically excluding her adopted son from the inherited estate.
Okay. It's Lemon versus who?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
I'll look it up. I think you put it in the text. Lemon versus Kurtzman. Yeah. Okay.
So, anyway, if anything, like, since those words are all diagonal, like, maybe lemon is there to try to point us in that direction. I almost feel like that's a stretch. I think what I just like the most is the idea of, like, there finally being some other connection to my obsession with will and testament and estate. Because it just fits so well with Ready Player One that I feel like there has to be something there. And so just being able to kind of think of that in its own sense of that itself has an aspect of past and future.
Mm-hmm.
So what if there's a world where each set of words found by, direction, like do all the diagonal lines point to a certain type of past and future thing? Do all the forward words work together to make some sort of different past and future relationship? And like, could there be 5 different past and future relationships that we need to be considering here? Anyways, all to be said is I have not been working on past and future box, but I just got excited about this and wanted to pass it along to my captured audience about estates.
No, I think it's awesome. It's an awesome find. Props to the finder. I forget who. Donna Snowbody. Yeah, that's really cool. And I like your connection to will and testament as being an estate divide. And I like your idea of using the different words that are in different orientations as groups of clues, and something we've all talked about liking, but maybe not applying as much, applying the chapter theme to the puzzle solution, past and future, where a lot of solutions don't do that, right? Cool.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with Blake. I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I feel like it really cleanly ties together a few of the words, a few of the themes in like a satisfying way. I'm a little bit worried about some of the things that Blake was also worried about. It seems like the same information taken in 2 different ways. And we feel pretty confident that one way is probably the correct way already. So there's a little bit of that. I also want to reemphasize that I'm a real big believer in the idea that once, with the 5 clues in the word search, that like you find 1, you find 5, it's more of like a methods thing, and you use that same method to get all 5. So I would not be very bought in on the idea of like the diagonal words being one type of past and future puzzle and then the forward words being different, because I think that kind of contradicts with the idea of find 1, find 5. But I do like a lot of that stuff you said, Bryn, and I'm trying to remember months ago, I did something somewhat similar, like an estate thing for the word search. And I just tried to look for it real quick, and I don't organize my files very well. So I'll have to look back and find it. But I think that mine had to do with like placeholder words for like law students in estate law. And that also tied in somehow. So I'll have to find that again too, because that might kind of go in the same bucket as the stuff you're working on here.
I do just want to read this line because I wasn't saying will and testament as like a direct quote. So the first player, this is from Past and Future Box. The first player to find this egg will inherit Oasis, a company worth trillions of dollars. With his will and testament, Halliday gives birth to the most valuable treasure hunt in human history. So there's two between inherit and his will and testament. So I'm just continuing to throw that out there, I guess, for other people to work on. I'm intrigued at this point, so maybe I'll circle back and try to find something.
Awesome. All right, should we do Puzzle Corner?
Puzzle Corner.
Puzzle Corner. Bryn, do you have Puzzle Corner today?
I do. Is everyone tired of listening to me yet?
No.
Never.
So again, Puzzle Corner is going through some different puzzling methods, how to make puzzles in this puzzle craft book. And so I wanted to do what I'm calling Wordplay 101, go through some very high level wordplay concepts that are introduced in this book. And for the sake of maybe some additional insight, I wrote examples in my notes here of maybe how some of these wordplay instances could have been hinted at in the Pokemon box specifically. I'm not saying that this is the correct interpretation or like this is what you're intended to do, but just some examples of maybe how this could be hinted at. So I'm going to start out with number one is the simplest form of wordplay is reading a word or a set of words twice and getting different meanings, essentially a pun. So if I ask you, did you see that comic strip? And you say, I prefer she kept her clothes on, thank you very much, you've made a pun. So I think a pun is something we all can pretty well wrap our heads around and understand, but I do think it is worth kind of laying a foundation here.
Okay.
If two words' letters are the same, but pronunciations differ, that's a homograph. The word supply has two very different pronunciations, one meaning give provisions and the other meaning in a flexible manner. So supply or supply, right?
Yep.
If, however, the letters are different and the sounds are the same, you have homophone. So think shoot or shoot, S-H-O-O-T or C-H-U-T-E. And a couple examples here would be sight and sight in the Pokemon box, or Coltrane, Coltrane.
Nice. I like these connections to the chapter. Very good.
Oh man, I don't know how to say this. I want to say a mondegreen is a misheard phrase with a very different meaning. Like the supposed Jimi Hendrix lyric, excuse me while I kiss this guy. But it is actually, it's the sky, or kiss the sky. So is that kind of like what we're getting with people saying jazz bar, Jasper? I feel like that's kind of a fair interpretation of that type of wordplay. We have charades, which is the addition of two or more words into a larger word. Example, char and aid become charade. So if you think about that, I mean, that's essentially like our portmanteau words that we've been talking about all along, which is all Pokemon names, which is something very unique and appropriate for a wordplay chapter. So it's funny that this is char-aid for charade, and then we could also think of this as maybe char and lizard for Charizard. The hidden word is a staple of wordplay puzzles. For this section, the hidden word is simply defined as a word found reading left to right in one or more other words. For example, medicine is found in the middle of the phrase some dizziness. What is that word? Dizziness. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it right. Anyways, if you combined then the end of some into medicine, you would be able to get medicine by merging those two words together. So it's like maybe with our middle theme, that we get throughout the Pokemon box chapter are we supposed to be looking at? What can be combined between the middle of these two words, for example? Again, not saying this is what we need to be doing, but just throwing them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the hidden words can be found in the odd or even letters of a word or phrase. For example, the word schooled contains shoe in the odd letters and cold in the even letters. We have instances in the chapter of him saying even quite a few times. Oddly enough, is this supposed to be hinting at odd and even? Try adding and subtracting some letters. And I think we had a couple instances of add. I know people were trying to like almost use the Pokemon numbers in a mathematical way. A word deletion drops one or more entire word out of another. Clam bake, subtracting lamb to get cake. This is also defined in the positive as a container. Example, Berlin inside time making Timberline. So I love the idea of container words because we have so many references to containers in the Pokemon box chapter as well. For rim to the rim could hardly contain my excitement. You know, the jar of flies, the sounds spilling out, which would kind of infer a container as well. Try reversing the letters. A reversal turns one word around to make another, such as nomad and daemon. They reversed course in the chapter.
You will see a demonstration of reversal in our discussion coming up.
Ooh, nice. So, of course, we're all familiar with scrambling the letters, which is an anagram. We had the scrambled eggs in the chapter.
Interesting.
And then that's the end of my lesson. And then it goes into palindromes, which I do think is just kind of worth throwing out there because of the mirror aspect in the Pokemon box chapter as well. So anyways, that is not necessarily how I'm interpreting all of these themes within the Pokemon box chapter, but I do think there is a lot of wordplay out there to be considered. And there are certainly types of hints that could be telling us to be looking for these types of things. I personally hope we do not have to get in that deep, but I thought it was worth exploring.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great tickler to think about as we read through. I mean, some of those would be easy just to take an hour or two and do the combined words. What was that? The container words or the...
Yeah.
When you look for a space between the words, and just
hidden words.
Hidden words. Some of those could be systematically searched for, I think.
Yeah. Pokemon box madness. And I do think, I mean, a lot of that could potentially be applied to Lion Share as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would not rule out wordplay in Lion Share.
Agreed. All right. Any questions, Cody, or should we do a coincidence of the day?
I'm ready for a coincidence of the day.
All right, Cody.
All right. Coincidence of the daytime. So I was listening to an unrelated video about the nuances of time zones, like you do. And out of nowhere, Hopi content came out.
Really?
Which really made me raise an eyebrow. It's always, I don't think I'd ever heard of, maybe I just never picked up on it because I wasn't looking for it, but I feel like I never heard of Hopi stuff, at least not frequently prior to TTI. And now it just really, it jumped out at me. So it has to do with time zones. And it was, well, actually, I'm not even sure if it is time zones, more daylight savings time, which I guess is two different things. So it has more to do with daylight savings time. And the Hopi Reservation and around the Hopi Reservation has some of like the weirdest daylight savings time quirks of like anywhere in the world. So you've got Arizona, and then up in the northeast corner of Arizona is the Navajo Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And within the Navajo Nation, there's two enclaves that are Hopi Reservation. And then within one of those Hopi reservations, there is another Navajo Nation enclave.
Wow.
Arizona and the Hopi Reservation don't observe daylight savings time,
Right.
and the Navajo Nation does observe daylight savings time.
Interesting.
So from this post here, there's another post talking about it on Reddit because I looked it up more after I listened to that video. It says, according to Wikipedia, if daylight savings time is in effect, you can drive east on Arizona State Route 264, starting in Tuba City, and cross 6 time zone boundaries in less than 100 miles. Tuba City is within the Navajo Nation and at the eastern terminus of Arizona's State Route 264. If you started there while daylight savings time is in effect and drove east on 264 in less than 100 miles, you'd cross from Navajo to the first Hopi enclave, out of that enclave back to Navajo, into the second Hopi enclave, into the Navajo enclave within the Hopi enclave, out of the Navajo enclave back to Hopi, and out of the Hopi enclave back into Navajo. So ultimately, that's a very long-winded way of saying that there's like some really specific, quirky, and very notable daylight saving times nuances having to do with that Hopi reservation area, which is notable in itself just because we're looking for Hopi stuff. But also I find it extra interesting because obviously there's so much stock in the Hopi calendar within the book, which generally is time related, and daylight savings time is time related. So it is a coincidence, but also a coincidence that I'm keeping in the back of my mind because it could potentially not just be a coincidence.
That's a lot. That is, oof.
And then your iPhone would explode if you took that route.
Yeah, some of the comments on the on that Reddit post were talking about different cell towers and what a nightmare it would be just walking around down there.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah, so keep it in the back of your mind if you're working on time-related Hopi stuff.
Very good. All right, let's dive into chapter 13 content. The best of its class Jordan rookie card, chapter 13. Anybody want to kick us off? Any volunteers?
I'll go first.
Cody.
What's that? What's that, Cody?
No, you're excited. We want to talk about the bulls.
Yes, that's right. I got to steal that one before you guys get to it. Here's my story on that one. You know the New York Times puzzle. Oh, what's it called? The one where you have to match. There's like a grid of 16, and you have to match 4 and 4 and 4 and 4 connections. So there was a connections. I don't want to say recently, but somewhat recently, that had Michael Jordan and Wall Street and something else, well, 2 other things. Long story short, it ended up all being Bulls related.
Okay.
So I think I had that in the back of my mind. I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together, but as I started reading this chapter, and also knowing that you guys had talked so much about like antlers and horns and whatnot in the last chapter, that's like the first thing in my notes is it instantly clicked that Michael Jordan is like, you think of Michael Jordan, you think of the Bulls. And that is one of the animals with horns.
But it's weird that he never stated that. It's kind of weird. A fact, weird by omission, right? So this is the second case I can think of that he didn't mention the Chicago Bulls. He also never mentioned that he attended University of North Carolina. That Jon Collins-Black never mentions that Jon Collins-Black ever attended University of North Carolina.
Is that also horns related because the Tar Heels?
No.
It is not, but it's just another instance of is it interesting because it's omitted? Question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly omitted from the text, but if you look at the picture of the card, it says bulls on it.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
I think I
think both of those 2 things are true. I think it could still be a clue by omission. And also, yes, he does have the Bulls jersey on.
Also, I mean, just to loop back to the ring being turned upside down, That was part of Original Branch's post about what was it? April Taurus. Taurus is a bull, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a fun connection as well.
Right. And then we have the, the picture of the bull charging, right? In that future chapter. Go ahead, Cody. Sorry.
I think that's a buffalo, right? I guess a male buffalo is probably called a bull, maybe.
Oh boy. It's a risky
you don't know that off the top of your head?
Risky statement right there.
I was just gonna say I want that ring thing and Taurus thing. I want it to be right. I want to not I have a tough time believing it, but I want it to be right. It has horns, but it's a buffalo, right?
Yeah, I think it's a buffalo.
Is a male buffalo a bull? Yes.
Watch the whole freaking Bouffalante thing be for lion share. Just be a lion share clue.
A male buffalo is called a bull.
Okay, very good.
Nice. All in on antler.
Horn theme.
The horn theme's rising the ranks.
That means the treasure, the lion's share treasure is in Texas. Solved.
Okay. Do you want to go next, Blake?
Not really.
Well, I have one that kind of tags onto that because when we were talking about the GOATs before, I know you and I were both like, well, does he mention Michael Jordan as the GOAT in the Michael Jordan chapter? And reading this, it's like, well, he is. I think maybe the whole point here at the beginning is to bring up the concept of greatest of all time without literally saying GOAT, because that almost feels too direct at this point. But this whole kind of beginning part, he calls Michael Jordan the greatest basketball player ever twice, which would be the GOAT. And then he talks about all the respective people being the best in their fields. Like he talks about people being the Michael Jordan of, which it would be, you are the GOAT of your respective field. So I think, to me, I feel like he's inferring GOAT pretty directly here, in my opinion. So I looked into where do we find goats? Where in the US is known for goats? And I wanted to call this out because famous locations for spotting mountain goats include Glacier National Park and Olympic National Park and Mount Rainier. So we got 2 places in Washington. So selfishly, I would like to point that out.
Nice. All right. We're going to do confirmation bias Washington theme. I'll do mine. And I'm going to read a whole section of this chapter, I think. I pretended I was Larry Bird. Would back my invisible opponent up, then spin and shoot a fadeaway jumper from the corner. Then I became Magic Johnson. I would post up in the lane, throw the ball to myself, and then toss a half hook shot over my shoulder into the basket. Then I transformed into Michael Jordan. I'd fake one way, then blow by my invisible defender towards the goal. I'd imagine skying through the air for a highlight reel reverse layup game winner as the final buzzer sounded. I wasn't fast, tall, or strong, but in my mind, on that driveway, I was legendary. I think this is full of goodies, and I'm going to go through a couple of those. One, I transformed into Michael Jordan. If we're thinking about the transformation theme, the butterfly from Cocoon, thought that was interesting, and that was the transformed was for Michael Jordan, not any of the other players he mentioned. I'm going to use wordplay right now. I imagine skying through the air for a highlight reel reverse layup game winner. So what happens if you reverse the word layup?
Oh.
Play.
Yeah, it's the first 5 letters of the word Puyallup. It's a very specific,
Oh, nice.
very specific city in Washington State. Puyallup, Puyalla. I'm spelling it wrong, but you can get Puyallup out of that. Sorry, I don't have it written down. And then I don't know. I thought there was some interesting terminologies. A half hook. Half hook would be kind of like an arc, I would argue. Obviously, that's a basketball term. I imagine skying through the air, a 36,000 foot view, a bird's eye view. I imagine skying through the air, like a little bit interesting. But does this section scream something interesting in there? To me, it does. And I'm trying to find connections, and I'm throwing my ideas at the wall here. Any thoughts about that section being potentially a clue or clues?
It definitely feels like it needs to be something, and you've gotten a lot farther with it than I did. I will add on, so of all of that, I think the skying through the air was just the weirdest of all of it. And I thought, maybe is this also something to do with Michael Jordan? We have the basketball card of him at the beginning. Michael Jordan is jumping. We have the illustration in this chapter that is the one that is supposedly the least AI, was not detected to be AI, is also jumping up. Michael Jordan is Jumpman. So is there something there with the idea of jumping, skying through the air? I don't know. Later in the chapter, he says most of them could jump higher, run faster. So I don't have much more insightful information about it, but wanted to add the Jumpman concept in.
No, that's
I think
good.
As far as trying to get more information out of those excerpts, you could maybe make geographical connections based on like the teams that those players were known for playing for. Like I know different players played for multiple teams, but I think all those guys were like specifically known for one team. Like, ooh, I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, but I think is so the Bulls for Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Larry Bird was Celtics, right? Was like his the one he's known for.
Yep.
Magic Johnson was Lakers, was the one he's known for.
Right.
So I don't know. You could maybe do something with that.
Magic Johnson.
It's interesting. He didn't name anyone who's like doesn't have a team that they're like clearly associated with.
Good point. I like that a lot, actually. Thinking about map locations, road mapping. Take that into account. Huh. Nice.
The other thing I wanted to mention, because I didn't catch it when I was reading it, but then I caught it when you were reading it. You said that the half, did they say half hook?
Yeah.
And you said that's a basketball term, but I've never heard that term.
Awesome.
And I just looked it up, and it's just like all the results are just normal hook shots.
Yeah, toss a half
could be
hook shot over my shoulder into the basket.
Half hook shot. What even is a half hook shot?
I don't know.
Hook shot's kind of it is or it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something there with that. Half hook. Huh.
Right. Do other people have comments about the image, the quote unquote non AI generated image?
I do think we should just clarify. So that was a video Matthew Hobbies had done, doing an analysis of all the images in the book to decide which ones were detected as likely AI versus not. And I think all the other AI-ish looking images were like 98 percentile, and this one was very low.
Yeah, I need to reproduce that analysis myself. I'm curious if he removed maybe this paper texture background that we think is a stock image, or actually we know is a stock image that's been solved. that would change that result of the AI analysis at all. I'm curious. But yeah, this is one of the more suspect pictures because of Matthew Hobby's analysis, AI detection analysis. The reason I was thinking about it more after this reread was that this week of tryouts was a blur. And so I was curious if you could make some like mountain ranges, like mountain range views out of a couple of these things. So I kind of turned the picture on its side for you guys to take a look at too, to see, is the relief image here right of a mountain range, or maybe the top here. And then I tried to like squint and look at it, but I have some like blur effects here. If you step back and like look at this, does it become something else in your mind? Because if it is not an AI generated image, I feel like there's more opportunity for, that means Jon actually had some pen strokes in here, even if part of the image was AI generated and it's heavily modified potentially. But anyway, there's a few blur things I did on here just because of that term. That week of tryouts was a blur. I was wondering if we had to do a blur effect on this.
I love it. Especially when you think about those jagged edges on the picture. I hadn't really given that much thought, but they are really weird and precise. And I think the one thing that stood out to me the most was the distinct like black and white contrast on the shorts. Especially if this isn't AI, what could that possibly be?
Like this part? Or you're thinking
Yeah.
more the far right here?
No, just the whole section with the shorts. Like, why is that one section
Oh.
so geometric white versus geometric black?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I like this blur the most to get the most contrast, but I don't know. It doesn't pop out to me other than it looks potentially mountain-like. But I don't know. It's just my thought process.
I think that's a really good call. Is the way the picture is drawn is supposed to make it look kind of like he's moving, like it is a blur, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. In motion for sure, yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I would totally buy that. There's something else we're supposed to be seeing in this.
I have 4 things to say.
Okay.
The first one is when you had the normal picture pulled up before you ever switched to anything, and you said, and then I tried to squint, and I squinted right as you hit onto the next one that was super blurry. I thought it was just my eyes, and I was like, it was like the exact same split second, and it was just the weirdest feeling. I was like, I squinted, it just like completely went away. What is up with this drawing?
The magic eye.
But back to business. My 3 other notes are back to business. So the mountain ranges thing, I feel like we've done similar things, obviously, with like the torn edges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you guys think that like identifying a mountain range based off of that level of detail, either the ripped edges or this, would just be so difficult because it would change? You can look at a mountain range from 360 degrees of view, depending on how you're looking at it. So you have to be like standing at one specific spot for it to line up just right.
Yeah.
Is it like, it would have to be, I guess, like in my mind, to make that fair, it would have to be off like a famous lookout at the mountain range, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. Because otherwise, I mean, if you're just like looking at it from 45 degrees off, you're looking at the exact same thing and it just doesn't match up. It just feels like a needle in a haystack kind of situation.
I would agree that it's probably a prominent lookout or a prominent view or something you could find online. I mean, I feel like there's too many things that would point to JCB potentially doing this as a clue, though. One being chapter 4, where talks about perspective, and then they go into this opening and clearing and see the two peaks that indicate they're on the correct range, like the correct planes or whatever. That the other that JCB has admitted, not in the book, but just in interviews, that he's a fan of the Goonies. I don't know if either of you have seen the Goonies before.
No, but I know there's the coin, right? And you
There's
have to line it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if he likes the Goonies, don't you think he's put something in the book that's going to be a line up this, border image, like you're saying, Cody, or these basketball shorts to a mountain range? So that's why I'm kind of on the lookout for it. Is I think there's a couple instances that hint at perspective being important in a true puzzle sense. That's why I'm interested in this, but I agree with you. That's very difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also think it has potential to tie in with the Hopi culture because of the distinct location you had to be to watch the moon rise and fall to determine where you're at in the calendar as well.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Number 3. I'm wondering if there's any program. Let's should back up. I should start by saying, if we just did the eyeball test on what pictures in this book are AI generated and what are not, this one 100% gut feeling eyeball test, I would have been like, this is an AI generated picture. It very much looks like an AI generated picture to me. So I was very surprised to learn, I shouldn't say learn that it wasn't, but to see evidence that it wasn't an AI generated picture, or at least altered enough that the program spit it back as likely not AI generated. I'd be interested to see if there's any program out there that can, 2 different things: feed it through a program that says like it can determine like what part's AI and what's not. Probably not something that exists, but interesting to look into that potentially. And if not, I wonder if you could narrow in on some stuff by like, if you just took like the top half of this picture and fed it through that same program, so is this AI generated? And it's like, no. Then you feed the bottom half through and it's like, yes. Can we kind of start to narrow in on like different parts of this picture that could have been touched up by JCB? Because I'm pretty confident in saying it's AI at some point, and then it's just a matter of did JCB alter it or not? Because I don't think this was from scratch.
Yeah, look, I mean, the shoes are so wonky.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we got rid of the background, like mentioned before, if it would change that result. So I think a little further investigation is warranted before we go make too many conclusions about this. Good point, Cody.
And then my last point, which is mostly just in defense of the idea that this is mostly an AI drawing, is I don't think I've ever seen a basketball like that. It's got like 10 panels. And maybe it does exist. I'm sure there's lots of different basketball designs.
Yeah.
But that would be a weird one.
Maybe it's a clue. Okay, very good. Who wants to go next?
I have one I'm excited about.
All right.
So throughout the book, we keep talking about how there's this, seems like an emphasized father-son relationship, right? And in this chapter, when he scores on the wrong basket, he says that the ref comes over and says, "Son, you just scored a basket for the other team." So son, S-O-N, feels like an intentional addition there. And do we think then that son, all these mentions of son, father, son, are supposed to be hinting at the S-U-N? Because we have all of these light and fire hints as well. And that would also kind of tie in with moon.
I think that's a good thought. I never considered the other father-son generational references as being quote unquote wordplay to mean sun, S-U-N. But you're right that is a little bit, you could imagine that being out of place in this particular chapter, why the referee calls him son. It's the vernacular, but it's a good one to flag. I like that.
I definitely think there's opportunities because we already had sun on our radar. So maybe it's just because I had wordplay top of mind.
Radar is a palindrome. Cody, you have any goodies for us?
Yeah, I'll do a goodie for you. So this one is more just tying different parts of the book together. So he mentions a couple different 1990s commercials, the Got Milk and the Once You Pop, You Can't Stop.
Nice.
And I just think that's more evidence towards the theory for the brim to the rim elsewhere in the book, where we thought the brim to the rim could be that, I can't remember if it's 80s or 90s coffee commercial for Brim Coffee. And then the reference to that being the half a cup, half full, half empty kind of thing. When JCB calls out a similar thing in the book to what our theory is, it makes me feel more confident that he would then rely on that, the idea of old commercials, right? When creating that clue elsewhere. So
I'm not endorsing Brim to the Rim as an ad in Pokemon Box. Ad reference.
really,
Interesting.
No.
Yeah.
I really liked that. I really like the brim to the rim, half full, half a cup. But I'm not the resident Pokemon expert.
It could very well be right. I don't want my stamp of approval on it per se. Blake's turn.
Okay. Just because this episode's going to be labeled a chapter 13 re-review, I do want to quickly go through the triangular numbers, if that's all right with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we would be remiss if we didn't talk about it. I know we've covered it a few times already, but anyway, pointing out the direct passages, we led by 10 points in the first quarter and 15 in the second. At the end of the third quarter, our lead had ballooned to 21 points. With 2 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in the game, we led by 28 points. That gives you a nice series of triangular numbers for something I think we all agree on. JCB would not have remembered the grand detail of what the scores were for this game. Even though it's ingrained in his head as being a traumatic experience, I doubt he would remember the scores, right? So prime location,
Correct.
Put in a little clue. You split those out, 10, 15, 21, 28. You get a series of triangular numbers, which basically adds one number. So going from 10 to 15 is an addition of 5. Going from 15 to 21 is an addition of 6, etc., etc. And you can do that in perpetuity. And there's a formula called the triangular number that will fit into that pattern. So hence, when we talk about triangular numbers, this is what we're talking about, this quote unquote hard evidence, I would say, that there's a pattern to be discerned here. What to do with this 2, 3, 4, I don't necessarily know. And I mean, there's speculation that you could use it 2 plus the 3, 4 equals 36. I think there's discussion that this could be a Harshad number as well. I think I pointed out in the famous shipwreck chapter, there was also a mention of 2, 3, 4 and a whistle. And there's mention of whistle twice in this chapter as well that you guys liked.
Yeah. Did like that one a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So other numbers that were interesting kind of in this section. I played aggressive defense. I didn't give an inch. I had a steal or 2 or 3. I mean, is that where we're getting our 23 from Michael Jordan, maybe? Or is this hinting at a 1, 2, 3? Again, looking at series of numbers. We'd run for miles on the football track. Are we supposed to be using some of these numbers for our road mapping exercise to narrow down location? And then again, in fact, 2/3, again at 23, 2/3 of the season had gone by and I had not played 1 second of any game. I don't know. There's just so many little number connections in this section. Hard to know what to do with them, except I really like the triangular numbers. I think that's such a solid clue, high on the tier list.
For sure. Can I quickly add on to your numbers?
Of course.
So the first sentence is whether or not you're familiar with the expression be like Mike probably has to do with what age you are. And throughout this chapter, he's constantly specifically calling out his exact age at which all these things are happening. It's like, I was 9, I was 13, I was this, I was that, which, could totally just be part of the storytelling. But when I was reading it, it felt like, wow, he is really being precise with his ages. And then I remembered that we had this line to start out about calling out the age that you are. So I don't know if there's anything with the specific ages that could also be added into the number conversation.
I think there could be. I mean, there's a lot of age references specifically in this chapter. I think at least 3 I can think of off the top of my head, but probably more than that, where Jon's talking about his age specifically.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good one.
Right.
I'll do one real quick. I'll
Perfect.
do another connection between this chapter and somewhere else in the book, which is he was the basketball 007, never stirred, never shaken.
Nice.
And we know, oh gosh, I should find it here. Back in the chapter 1, when Jobs wanted, I think it was Jobs that wanted like number 0 or number 1. Yeah, so to appease Jobs, Scotty made him a badge that read employee number 0. Jobs was thrilled. Scotty gave himself badge number 007. So that definitely feels like 2 007 references in a book about treasure feel like they're connected in some way.
They have a bond.
Agreed. Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
You were just Mr. Pun tonight. Wow.
My bad.
That was really good.
No.
This is not the first one. He said like 3 excellent puns.
Also, your call out of the palindrome was also excellent. You're just on top of it. Quick-witted tonight.
Got my wits about me. All right. I don't really have any good ones left, so I can do a couple flakes if that's all right, and then just chime in on your conversations.
Sure.
Go for it.
There was a lot of numbers in the fun facts. I wrote them down, but could not discern a pattern necessarily from them, like the number of championships he won, the number of trophies, the number of rings, etc. I don't know if there's further discussion about that. I think the title of the chapter is weird. The best of its class Jordan rookie card. Why wouldn't you just call it like you've been calling the other treasures, kind of simply the Jordan rookie card? Why is it called the best of its class Jordan's rookie card? Any thoughts on that?
The only other thing, I agree that it was weird. And the only other thing I could come up with was, and maybe this is a regional thing, but he called middle school twice middle grade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a real term or not, but the fact that he was calling these middle grade school, class, grade, school, grade, a card. I don't know if there's any sort of connection there, but these are all kind of interchangeable words between card grading and education system. And just the fact that, as far as I can tell, age middle grade is, I don't think, a thing.
Yeah.
Is that somehow trying to tie back to card grading?
Is it tied to half hook?
Is it a half hook?
No, I flagged that one as well, both instances, and I kind of dismissed it after the second instance of it. I'm like, maybe that's just a vernacular of North Carolina.
It could be.
We'll have to investigate.
I should mention, since you specifically brought up strange chapter titles, that I did all my notes for chapter 12 last week before I wasn't able to attend the podcast. And one of my main ones was addressing strange chapter titles more like throughout the book and some inconsistencies. Ultimately, I think it's probably a case of JCB wrote the different chapters and wrote the different titles at different times and just kind of did what felt right in the moment. And then they kind of, when you read them all one after another, there's some inconsistencies. But I thought, so for chapter 12, he calls massive gold rush nugget. And then anytime else that he's talking about a physical item, he says the, but then this one just in chapter 12 just didn't have it. So it was the 96 carat Chivor emerald and the golden chalice and massive gold rush nugget. That one, the more I read it, the more it bothered me. I'm going to touch on that real quick because we were talking about inconsistencies or strange chapter titles. So ultimately, I think I would lean towards they aren't anything.
It was in the moment, and he just ran with it. Yeah, I could see
that's
that.
what I'd lean.
I could see that being an option for sure.
I don't love that though. When you're making a treasure hunt book, to just be like, that is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
it is what it is. All right. I'll do one more and then I'll be quiet. Sorry. It was an ingredient in the culture.
Yeah.
We've been talking about food lately. That was the only food term. An ingredient in the culture. Kind of in the basketball as an ingredient in the culture of North Carolina at the time JCB was growing up.
Also wrote it down. I don't know what to make of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we go next?
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Nearing the pinnacle of his historic basketball career. So pinnacle jumped out because this is like something we can physically look for, right? So just to see like what is our definition of a pinnacle? A pinnacle in nature is a tall, slender, pointed rock formation or spire. Few notable places with pinnacles in the US would be Corona Pinnacles in California, Pinnacles National Park in California, or Peshitin Pinnacles in Washington. Or Pinnacle Peak Trail is a very famous trail at Mount Rainier. So we also had the line, individuals like Michael Jordan can inspire you. Of course, so back to the definition with spire in it. And then the line, my father erected a metal rim with netting in our driveway. Also feels very pinnacle or spire-ish to me to erect something. So between all three of those, maybe there is something you could kind of map out here or have a physical tie to on a map in one way or another.
Very good.
Oh, thank you. I was happy there was I guess two Washington connections between the state park and then the trail at Mount Rainier.
Yeah, I'd love to build up enough Washington connections to do a nice little local boots on the ground.
I mean, I really like your idea of triangulating the players, Cody, to see if you go right to the middle of the triangle between Chicago, Los Angeles, and
Boston.
It's a bad triangle.
If there be something, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's more of a line. If there's a peak there.
But how about I guess that wouldn't make any sense. I was going to say if it lined up with a coin, because that would be like but if it did, what does that tell us?
Wait, what did you include Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's
going to be like a little up and way east, and then mostly just east.
If we can actually use the triangle concept in this chapter as one grand clue, I would like that.
Yeah.
But how to do that? You said the pinnacle. There's a few pinnacles. I like, Bryn. I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah. More to think about there. So I had mentioned before that one of my words that keeps Spidey sensing me. Oh God. Was the word brand. So it comes up again in this chapter when he says, for many of us who grew up in North Carolina and witnessed Jordan before he became a worldwide brand, which already kind of feels, I mean, it makes sense, but it's maybe a little strange. So I pulled the other brands that I could find, and half of them are kind of feel like they're stuck in there for no reason. So page 34 on Angkor Wat, he says the royal family lineage was codified according to their clever and meticulous branding. And on that same page, he also says he brandished a gold sword. Page 43, Fabergé chapter, he says the Fabergé brand rose to prominence. Then we have the Jordan brand, that Jordan became a worldwide brand. 176 about the garnets, he said Tiffany & Co. became the first brand jewelry designer to introduce Saberite. That one was also a super weirdly phrased sentence to put the word brand in there. 186 for Hercules, the Club of Hercules would become the central brand of Herculean mythology. That one was also kind of a weird use of brand. And then obviously the intro to part 2, everyone's favorite brand. Another person might find that solved, just their brand of tea. And there were also 5 instances of him saying brand new in the book, which isn't super weird. One thing that was kind of weird is that 2 of the 3 are hyphenated. The 2 of the 5 are hyphenated and 3 of the 5 are not hyphenated. So more inconsistencies.
Yay.
Interesting.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I always hear brand, and every time it sticks out like a sore thumb to me for some reason.
This is like my biggest fear, that so many things that I'm looking into at the Pokemon box are just like lion share clues. Like, what if the Samsonite and the Jayco are just like, oh, another brand for the lion share?
Something to keep in
Nightmares.
mind. I wouldn't get too worried about it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's too much line share in the part 2 box section.
No, I agree.
And there's a lot of things that just could be possibilities, but you just have to try it, right?
Right. I want to talk about light. I feel like I'm always talking about light as a theme, but in this chapter specifically, Jordan was at his best under the brightest lights. A rather glaring understatement, which would tie back to sun. I finally got my moment to shine. Its red electronic numbers burned bright.
Forgot about that one. Yeah. That one's always thrown me off.
Burned bright like blue lasers.
Yeah.
Burned bright like through red ruby eyes.
You have any more, Cody?
I got a few more, yeah. One of them, here's an easy one. He never really said why he put up the basketball goal. I think he called it a basketball goal twice. I'm guessing that that's just a regional thing, because I've never heard anyone around me call a basketball hoop a basketball goal. It's always been basketball hoop. So I'm guessing it's regional, but I also thought it was kind of interesting because we have maybe just one. I thought there were 2 other chapters about soccer specifically. So I don't know if there's like ties between trying to do basketball goal, soccer goal, make connections between chapters somehow. But that one stood out to me.
Okay. Screens. If you were alive to watch television commercials in the early 1990s, a lot has been shared about Michael Jordan, both in books and the big screen. Televisions were wheeled into elementary and middle grade classrooms. Surely there's something there with those screens, right? I don't know how you'd make that into anything, but I wanted to call it out. Interesting that Wilmington, North Carolina is known as a film film industry location. Like it is called Hollywood East, I guess.
Hmm.
I was trying to make something out of what could be the screen reference. So that was the best I could find.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't pull that out. Other than the televisions being wheeled into the middle grade classrooms was weird, but I didn't write it down because I didn't have good commentary on it.
Yeah, maybe something else we're supposed to be looking into specific to like, I don't know. I would say like the television culture. We had the ads to be thinking about.
The brands.
Yeah, maybe something bigger with television at the time.
I got one. How about breath and air in this chapter? So I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 examples of breath and air from this chapter. We got
Ooh.
I let go a breath of relief. I've got take a breath. I've got I'd imagine skying through the air. I got sprawled out on my back, gasping for air. I've got the foul shot went up and through the air. And I got at the time these commercials aired.
Air Jordan.
That's
And
amazing.
Air
Yeah, Air
Jordan.
Jordan. I love that. I did not pick up on it.
Breath and air.
From a 36,000 foot view. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Let's see. Expose. French word. Yeah, but like expose did not need to be used there. It wasn't like a necessary vocabulary choice.
What's the full
I just thought.
A lot has been shared about Michael Jordan both in books and on the big screen. So I won't go into a long expose here.
I guess it fits pretty well. But I wanted to call out another French connection.
Very good.
Do you have more, Cody, or should I keep rattling off my flakes?
I'm just gonna do this last one and then call it good. They start to taper off and get pretty bad at the end. This last one, I'm 100% sure is nothing. I'm just mostly proud of myself for my background knowledge on basketball, because it's like the only knowledge I have is like these few fun facts that happen to come up. So in the chapter, he did a bunch of talking about Michael Jordan's career accomplishments, and then alluded to other people, but never like named anyone else that would have like these grand career accomplishments. And one of them would have been Wilt Chamberlain. He has like all of the old records, and he had the highest scoring single game ever. He scored 100 points in one game. And one of the few things I know about that, because I Googled a long time back, like how the heck did he get 100 points? And it was because two of the players, the two people who would have normally guarded him, were both out of the game. And then JCB says in the text, our next match was at home against the worst team in our conference, who had just lost two of their best players to injury. So it made me think of that. No, it is nothing. It is 100% not a connection. But I just thought it was funny that I was already thinking about Wilt Chamberlain when he was talking about the career accomplishment stuff, and then the fact that they're a bad team that lost two players to injury, and that's like the scenario when Wilt Chamberlain set the record for most points scored in an NBA game. It seemed like a cool little. It's more of a coincidence of the day than anything else.
It was a fabulous fun fact.
A fabulous fun fact. An ancient Asian art, a better business blueprint, a fabulous fun fact.
There is that somewhere in here. There's a triple F, and I just can't find it right now. I'm close. I'll provide a few fun facts.
Nice. I have a few fun facts to keep going with, a few flakes to finish finally. I nearly broke the floorboards in our living room, which made me think of a basketball court, which maybe was his intention here, because I think basketball court on the hardwood, floorboards in our living room, maybe just some artistic style. Let's see. Blue theme. He talks about wearing blue jeans. And then a sense of cool will help keep you focused on the prize. So blue, of course, would be like a cool color. Not making too much of it. Of course, despite the work, my enthusiasm never waned, which I love as a moon reference.
Nice.
My pulse pounded. We kind of had this ongoing dialogue of heart and blood and
Heart theme. Yep.
I guess the heart theme. Reality hit me like an avalanche.
Yep.
Meh. I do like this. There's no reason to get too high or too low, which of course is tying in with like keeping it cool. But getting too high or too low just also feels very tangible if you're thinking within the context of looking for a treasure. And I also really like this. If the stakes suddenly seem too big, because in chapter 10, he has said the stakes are not particularly high.
That's a good one.
So those two together, I think, are interesting to relate to each other. And that is all I've got.
All right. Very good. We have a world record long episode, so we better log off.
Uh-oh. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.
Searching for clues, let's find